Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. China has begun emergency food aid with Cuba, with the first shipments of rice arriving as the island faces worsening food and fuel shortages after Venezuelan oil supplies were halted amid tightened U.S. sanctions. Furthermore, Beijing will send a total of 30,000 tons of rice under the new aid program. China has condemned a suicide attack on a Chinese restaurant in Kabul that has killed at least 7 people, including 1 Chinese national and 6 Afghans. With Foreign Ministry spokesperson Goh Jia-kun saying Beijing made urgent representations, while ISIS-K claimed responsibility for the attack as investigations by Taliban continues. Mohammad Nidal al-Shar met with India's Charge d'Affaires Renu Yadav in Damascus to push for stronger trade, investment and economic cooperation, including expanding joint coordination and boosting bilateral exchange. Amid the escalation between NATO and the USA over Greenland, President Trump has again slammed NATO, saying he has saved the alliance from the ash heap of history. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has reaffirmed his country's support for Greenland and Denmark's sovereignty at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Venezuela's National Assembly President Jorge Rodriguez has announced broad reforms in the laws amid the new political context following the capture of Nicolas Maduro by a U.S. military operation. A Belgian court has reopened the murder case of Congolese freedom icon Patrice Lumumba, as his family seeks justice 64 years after his death at the hands of Belgium, US and UK-backed separatists. Legendary American astronaut Sunita Williams has retired from NASA after 600-plus days in space and a record 9 spacewalks, the most by a female. Now we start with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has urged Europeans to avoid reflexive anger and instead sit down with U.S. President Donald Trump to hear his arguments about acquiring Greenland. Speaking ahead of Trump's arrival at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Bessent has suggested that European leaders take a moment to listen to Trump's perspective before reacting. This statement comes amid rising tensions over Trump's repeated threats to seize Greenland, which is part of Denmark. European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, have strongly condemned Trump's move, calling it new colonialism. Macron and others have criticized the aggressivity of Trump's tariffs, which he threatened to impose on countries opposing his Greenland plans. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Colin Chong-Yu-Keith. He's a Foreign Affairs, Security and Strategy Analyst, joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you very much, Mr. Collins, for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Now, looking at this, as tensions escalate, what do you think could be next, and how patient do you think that the European leaders who have opposed the idea and who many statements, strong statements indeed, that has come out of Europe, do you see do you see Scott Bessent's statements of, just hear Trump out, do you think that could make any difference now?
Well, certainly it won't make much of a difference. We've seen how this is, President Trump has stated this repeatedly, even during the first term, and we have seen how this is important, this is crucial, especially for this timeline. We have seen decades of inaction, decades of inadequacy in terms of the efforts being taken by Denmark and other European powers to safeguard Greenland, and that also this is about the inability of Europe to present and to portray capable deterrence to China and to Russia in the Arctic, especially in Greenland. So for years now, for decades now, they have not been able to do that. But once President Trump has stated that those era is now over, and and now they're all out in arms in terms of this presenting this unified front against President Trump. So this backlash, these responses, this frustration, this anger are all understandable. But from the bigger point of view, this is needed to ensure their security also. And they have to remember that for decades now, their security, meaning the security and safety of Europe, of Denmark, of course, all European powers, lies squarely on the security assurance and security umbrella of the US. And if Greenland is not being part of that equation, of course, it's not a full power safety net for the US, and this will also have profound implications for Europe as a whole. So of course, one way or the other, as President Trump has stated, this will be profound, this will be extremely crucial for the US, also for Europe, and that this outbursts of anger or frustrations are understandable in this initial timeline, but I don't see that to be the ultimate obstacles for President Trump to double down on his intent. And I foresee that for this year, moves will be made either through diplomacy, either through negotiations, or if all this failed, then of course all options are on the card for President Trump. And despite all these protests and this tit for tat moves in terms of tariff measures, as I've stated, the economic resilience of the US and the capability, the capacity of President Trump to impose the tariff cut is they're all unmatched, and it's a futile effort from Europe to be engaged in this kind of tit for tat move, as this will only weaken Europe. This will invite greater Chinese overtures in the sphere of Europe. So as I've stated, they have to be in line with what President Trump has, with strategic brilliance to have this kind of intent to keep Greenland under the control of the US.
And how do you think, how can European countries protect this Denmark under Greenland under Denmark, as they vocally say that they are supporting the sovereignty of Greenland under Denmark? So do they have any cards to play here?
Well, as I've stated, they do not have the hard power capacity to defend Greenland, and of course they have stated repeatedly that because they are very much confined to the rules-based order, the rules-based mechanism, the structural mechanism of Europe as a whole, to deploy these tools of the need to respect the norms and international law, and then all this have eventually failed to protect the security of Europe, as we have seen now in the case of Ukraine, in the case of increased power presence by Russia and China in the Arctic. So to rely solely on the basis of tools, mechanism, norms, those have been proven to be futile, and President Trump has stated that the security of the United States and the security of Europe lie very much on the security and control of Greenland. So if Denmark and other European countries continue to double down on this approach to oppose President Trump's move over Greenland, this will be a backfiring move. They are shooting themselves in the foot, and this will open up further openings for Russia and China to tear up this Western division, this Western unity. Of course, they have done so now, and of course the openings have been created in terms of sowing these divisions. And we've seen how the statement by Macron to have more Chinese investments and Chinese presence in certain areas, certain sectors. And of course, this is again, is for their own security in the future, and they have failed to do that. And now is the time to ensure that the capable power is given the responsibility to safeguard this important, important geographical area in Greenland for the betterment of both parties.
Thank you for highlighting that, and please stay with us, Mr. Keith, and for the next news. We have a breaking news. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa have voiced concerns over President Trump's Greenland ambitions. Von der Leyen has warned that Europe needs its own power levers in a world defined by raw power. Costa has emphasized that the EU must defend its rights against coercion and criticized Trump's tariff threats. Both leaders have stressed the importance of NATO collaboration for Arctic security and maintaining international law. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Mr. Collins Chong-Yu-Keith. He joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you very much, Mr. Keith, for staying with us. Now looking at this, as a lot of statements come in, strong statements indeed, coming from European leaders about protecting Greenland. Do you think that there could have been any other way that Trump could have raised alarm over the strategic or importance of Greenland?
Well, he has done so since last year. I believe that the diplomatic team, led by Rubio, has again expressed the intent to portray the urgency of the matter, the importance of Greenland, not only to the United States but to Europe as a whole. And of course, also those efforts have failed. There have been the European powers, especially Denmark, have been adamant in protecting the status quo, and hence we have seen how the new measures in place, the new messaging narratives from President Trump that one way or the other, Greenland will have to be under the control of Washington. And again, of course, we have seen how despite all these efforts to portray this the need for Europe to keep Greenland, all these have failed. And despite the option to also use the tariff cut as a retaliation to President Trump's tariff, as I've stated, this will fail also because Europe is also being trapped now by economic pressure internally, as well as the of course the dependence on the US in almost all areas. So this will fail, and of course Europe can't match the hard power capacity of the United States. And so seeing all these options on the table, so I don't see any way out for Europe to double down on his stand, unless the ultimate aim is to, of course, to welcome with open arms the increased presence of Russia and China. And I don't see this happening. It's not to the benefit of Europe as a whole, and the risks are far higher for Europe to do so, because by doing that, President Trump might just pull out from NATO, and that alone will spell doom for Europe in terms of the overall future security. And and just with this hardened stance over Greenland, by defending the status quo, Europe is risking itself to be to have an obsolete NATO, to have also a drawback, a withdrawn United States from the security umbrella of Europe, and you'll be exposed now to Russia. And of course also this will spell further doom for Europe, as I've stated, and it's not worth it for that to happen. And they have to look at the bigger picture as to how these power calculations will move forward. And some might have hope for a possible post-Trump era where things might be reversed. I don't see that happening also. So this is a critical timeline, not to jump to the bandwagon, and not to seize the opening to show this hardened stance against President Trump. And I don't see a happy ending for Europe should it choose that path.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins, for sharing that insight. Now we move on to our next news. Prince Harry and other high-profile claimants, including Sir Elton John and Liz Hurley, have accused the publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail of unlawful information gathering over a 20-year period. They alleged that grave breaches of privacy, claiming the publisher used private investigators and Belagan to gather stories between 1993 and 2018. Defending the publisher, Anthony White KC has argued that the journalists provided a compelling account of legitimate sourcing. He claimed the celebrities had leaky social circles, dismissing the allegations of a pattern of misconduct. Among the claimants are actors Liz Hurley and Sadie Frost and former MP Sir Simon Hughes. The lawsuit is expected to last 9 weeks at the Royal Courts of Justice. Now we move on to another news. Britain has approved China's plan to build its largest embassy in Europe in London. Despite concerns over possible spying, the embassy will be located near the Tower of London at the historic Royal Mint courtside. The approval comes after years of political pressure with some opposition from local residents, lawmakers, and security officials who warned it could ease Chinese espionage efforts. The new embassy will be significantly larger than China's current site in London, spanning about 55,000 square meters despite these concerns. The UK government hopes the move will improve relations with Beijing, particularly ahead of a visit by UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer to China this month. Let's listen into what Go Jiakun, Chinese Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesperson, has shared. Now we welcome back Mr. Collins Chong-Yu-Keith. He's a Foreign Affairs, Security and Strategy Analyst, joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you very much, Mr. Collins, for staying with us. Now looking at this, thank you. Now looking at this, how significant is that, regardless of sounding alarms over espionage chances and the amount of how many gray zones or unclarified zones this initial project or this project map had, why do you think China has, or why do you think UK has approved this?
Well, Britain is facing, a strategic dilemma here to, of course, the need to balance ties with China. And, of course, also we've seen this bandwagoning options and approaches, not only by the UK, but by Canada, by South Korea, to have these fallback options, whereas this friend-shoring dependence options also for these powers, also as a way out for the tariff measures. But also at the same time, they have to confront the rising risk of, not only espionage, but this increased Chinese presence right in the, on the soil of the UK. So this reflects a broader European pattern, the risk awareness, and without so decisive pushback, how to strategically balance the risk and the potential need to portray this new opening to China. And as we know, this will be China's largest embassy in Europe, and size itself also carries significance on its own in terms of also the options to have bigger staffing density, personnel, tech infrastructure, and of course the sheer proximity to this important sites in London. So of course we have seen how the UK is part of the Five Eyes intelligence network, and this is extremely crucial and sensitive, and we've seen how cooperation still remains intact, but the trust factor, the calibration of trust among different Five Eyes partners, including New Zealand, Australia, and the US. Of course, we've seen now frictions between President Trump also with the recent move by the UK on the decision on Diego Garcia also. So all this have exposed, and of course with the recent issue on Greenland, and this has exposed the fragility of the transatlantic ties, and also the need for Britain to balance the importance of ties between London and Washington and London and Beijing. And of course this is part of the broader playbook by Beijing also to test the waters, to send a strategic signaling and messaging to not only to London but to other European capitals, and of course to Washington, that again, as I've argued, despite the moves, despite the containment moves by the US, and despite the move in Greenland, China still retains the leverage in terms of the potential to have this to sow divisions, to have this new fallback options, and to have these renewed ties with traditional allies of the US, including the UK, including Canada, including South Korea and the like. So again, and of course with France. So this is another strategic vulnerability for the UK, but it's not surprising because of the current timeline of the move in Greenland.
Thank you for highlighting that, Mr. Collins. Please stay with us as we take the bite of Chinese Foreign Affairs spokesperson. Now let's listen into.
为外交馆舍建设提供支持和便利是东道国的国际义务。中国驻英国使馆新馆舍规划设计是一个高质量的方案，申请及获批完全遵循国际外交惯例及当地的法规及程序。
Now we welcome back Mr. Collins Chong-Yu-Keith. Thank you very much, Mr. Collins, for staying with us. Now, as you were highlighting the trust factor, also, how do you think this UK-China relationship looks like particularly now that Keir Starmer is going to be visiting? Do you think this is a strategic move by UK, as they know that he would need some kind of leverage as he visits China?
Surely the same move has been done by Canada, by Mark, as well as by Lee of South Korea. We have seen how all these have strategic intent to have these credible fallback options, also to send a subtle message to the US that despite the conventional strong ties, all these countries have the options also to enhance ties at the same time in parallel with China. So, and of course also this, as I've stated, this is a crucial timeline now with regards to what is happening now in Greenland, and this may be potentially frosty ties now from now on with in terms of London and Washington ties, and of course Starmer will use this opening to present a new way forward for London-Beijing ties now, especially in economic fronts. We have seen how the UK is also under increasing economic strain and economic pressure. They need to secure greater supply chain strategic sectors, and of course also to expand the market and the access, of course, and also as a strategic bulwark against potential further economic uncertainties now with regards to Greenland. So all these have been on the central timeline, the central factors weighing on the minds of Starmer, and how also to ensure that his domestic approval ratings are being kept, being maintained. And of course, this has been again a subtle playbook by London to navigate these increasingly complex ties now with Washington and Beijing. And let's not forget also about what Ukraine has to offer also in terms of this entire equation here, and how this visit might also involve the need for to showcase UK's greater power presence, greater diplomatic presence and symbol. Yes. And of course also I think this will be used to pressure Starmer will ask President Xi to play a greater role now for the peace agreement in Ukraine, as what President Trump has played before this. So all in all, we've seen how Starmer is keen to project a new way forward and a newfound power presence of the UK in Europe and across the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins Chong-Yu-Keat, for joining us today and sharing that insight. Now we move on to our next news. South Korean court has sentenced former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to 23 years in jail for the charges including engaging in a key action of insurrection concerning former President Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law in December of 2024. According to reports, the Seoul Central District Court has found Han guilty because he was considered instrumental in setting up the outward appearance of a cabinet meeting that facilitated the martial law declaration. However, the lower court has also found Han guilty of related charges such as perjury and creating false document, and Han had denied wrongdoing for all charges except partial perjury. Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Sanjay Kumar. He's a journalist at the Korea Herald, joins us live from Seoul. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay, for joining us. Good to see you. Now looking at this, how significant is this?
It was expected to be ruled out, and today, ruling out the possibility of delaying the justice, the court has announced the verdict, and people were expecting that something sort of this would come out. And the court has recognized in its ruling that it was an insurrection and the role of Han Duck-soo was there. So according to the, under a criminal act of Article 87, he is likely to be brought to books, and he is going to face this 23 years of imprisonment. So this is the overall situation today.
Right. And what political impact could this verdict have for future of South Korean politics, and how do you think politicians use their right and power moving on?
See, in South Korean politics, these kind of verdicts had been there before also. Many leaders had been imprisoned, even including the presidents. But later on, after a few years, when the regime changed, when the administrations changed, somehow the apology and all these things were somehow through apologies, and many relaxations were given based on health issues and others. So that would be a future course of action. Maybe after a few years, it cannot be ruled out. But in current circumstances, when DP is in power, and especially the anger of people is lively, or at least if it is not fading away soon, no government in South Korea, the current one or the next one, would be taking this as a risk to pardon. So that is why, for Han Duck-soo, it is a very difficult time, and he has been found guilty by the court that he had a role in undermining the constitutional order, and that is why this Article 87 has proven him guilty, and he is going to face this imprisonment.
Great. And as you highlighted, there has been, this is not the first case that South Korea has seen of political imprisonment of political elite. Do you think that the fact that DP is in charge right now, or the current South Korean government, do you think that had any role to play in how this case has, how the verdict was given, or how serious this has been taken?
See, officially, the DP is not part of it. It is being done, this justice is being delivered as part of the Korea's legal system, the constitutional system, and the court ruling is also part of it. But the role of the political pressure cannot be ruled out, because it is the DP and it is the politicians who saved the constitutional order, and that is why people and politicians are on one side, and the authorities of that administration are on one side. So there cannot be it cannot be denied that there is a relationship here, but the rulings are not done based on that relationship. But there will be a political chaos now. Even now also, the manner in which is being ruled out, many are saying that Han Duck-soo had not done anything, and he is becoming a kind of a scapegoat, and President Yoon should take the full responsibility, and he only should be punished. And people are anticipating it as a precedent to the to Yoon's verdict, which is about to come. He is facing 8 trials. So all these trials are going to give a very negative verdict from Yoon's standpoint. So the political circles, definitely they are going to have a lot of hue and cry from both the sides. So already Korean society is polarized, but on the case of on the issue of insurrection, the political polarization, especially in the conservative bloc, has gone passive, because they want to start a fresh politics with fresh agendas. There are different agendas in politics, and they have got a new leadership also, the PPP. So that is why it would be very interesting to see how they are going to protect their leader, and especially deal with issues like Han Duck-soo.
With that, I would like to thank Dr. Sanjay Kumar for joining us from Seoul and sharing that insight. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our tech news. Elon Musk reposted a claim from influencer Dodge designer, alleging that ChatGPT has been linked to 9 deaths, including 5 suicides. He has urged that the people to stay away from the chatbot, and advising that others to keep their loved ones away from using it. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has responded by calling out Musk's companies and citing the safety issues with Tesla's autopilot and xAI's Grok, adding that he won't even start on Grok. Altman has said that he sharply rebuked Musk and defended ChatGPT by pointing out the complexity of safeguarding billions of users. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.